Good day. I'm on a hike in BC, Canada right now, and I thought while I was doing this, I would just quickly put together a rant of my feelings with the N3 Ultimate by JMGO and let you know my first impressions. No, I'm not going to show you the projector or the setup or anything like that, because there are plenty of those on the internet and on YouTube, and you can see all the basics. I just want to let you know, after almost 2 weeks now, my feelings for this projector. I'll be honest, I bought this in Canada at Best Buy. It was the only place selling it here. Even the JMGO website wasn't selling it in Canada. They had USA and a few other countries listed, so that wasn't an option. So I had to buy it at Best Buy through the marketplace, and thankfully it was JMGO and not a reseller, because I never would have bought it that way. You never get good service from a reseller. So I ordered the projector. Shipping was crazy fast. They did a great job, because I'm over on the Sunshine Coast, which is, it takes a ferry to get across, and they got it to me in about 4 or 5 days from Ontario, which was all the way across the country. So kudos to them. Even when I contacted them, asking them about shipping, they responded right away. So the customer service experience was great. And, I got the projector. I was so excited. But I got to tell you, I didn't open it until the next day, because we were quite busy. And so all night I was just sitting there going, oh my God, is this thing going to work? Sorry, I got to go under a tree here. Oh. And of course a bug flew into my eye. So, all night I was awake thinking, is this thing going to work? Is it going to do what they say? Because all the YouTubers at the point that I bought it were all influencers. None of them were consumers. They had all received the projector for free to give a glowing review. So for me, you take that with a grain of salt, and all you do is, look at the features. And I'm thinking, okay, in a real world environment, how's this going to be? Because for me, I had a stand-up tripod projector screen because I live in a small space. It's 80 inches. And I thought, okay, well, I've had 3 Epson projectors, and I had a Epson EF22, which is a lifestyle projector on a gimbal similar to this, not motorized or anything like that. And it was only full HD, not 4K. But the focus and finding the screen and all that stuff was just junk. It didn't work at all. And I thought, okay, so this is probably just some kind of a marketing stuff, and it's not really going to do anything. It's not going to work. So the next day I decided, okay, I'm not going to go hike. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to do anything like that. My day is dedicated to this projector and troubleshooting it and figuring out all the crap that's going to probably happen that I'm going to have to troubleshoot. So I set it up, put it in front of the screen, as square on as I could on a lower table, because I wanted it to work really well. And hang on one second, because I'm going to be passing some hikers here. Anyway, I took it out of the box and I set it up, and I thought, okay, is this, what's going to happen? I paid $3,399 at Best Buy for this. And I could have gotten a projector, probably, a little better quality, maybe a short throw or something like that. But I thought, I'm going to try. I've never even heard of JMGO before, but I thought, okay, I got to give this a try because it looks so cool. Everything is motorized, the setups, the optical, the gimbal, motorized gimbal. And I put it in front of the screen and bang, hit the button, define the screen, optimize, autofocus, all of that. And it actually worked. It squared it completely perfect on my screen. The blue light around the border hit my screen perfectly. The autofocus did its thing, and everything was tuned in on the first try. And I was just blown away. I was like, no way. This is crazy. This is just crazy that actually worked. So I went through at that point and messed around with some of the settings, and, over the next week, watching movies. And, the image quality was just insane. Like, I've never seen anything like that. I had an Epson 3800 home theater projector, and it was 4K. But I could tell you that the brightness and the quality and the picture didn't look anything nearly as good as this. I was literally blown away. So, I showed my wife, we watched a movie that night after I dialed everything in a bit. And she was just like, holy crap. She was blown away. And she's not somebody who usually cares about this stuff. And usually, we'll bring the projector out for a few days, then put it back and, go back to the TV for a while until there's something worthwhile watching on a big screen. But she's literally asked me to keep it out for 2 weeks because she wants to rewatch, all the Star Wars movies, Star Trek, Aliens, stuff like that, because it's like watching it for the first time. The detail, just the picture quality, it's insane. Like, I can't even tell you how happy I am with the projector now. A few things that I had to do, just to let you know, was I had to dial in the reds and just up the hue. I didn't mess with the RGB, but I went to hue. I think I cranked it up to 12 or 13. I changed the projector to movie. I put the tone down to cool, because I was finding that the reds on this projector are just way too intense. You definitely need to dial down the reds. So then another thing I noticed was that the darks were just too dark. And a lot of the scenes that you would normally get, if you watch Dune or something with dark colors, dark shades, you tend to just find that it was incredibly hard to see the picture as a whole. And so I had to go in and change some of those things too. And I had to turn off the AI, darkness, blackness setting. And it's kind of sad I had to do that, because that's one of the selling features of the projector. But really, it just made everything too dark. Then I had to turn the shadow slider. All these YouTube video guys, the influencers, they all say, oh, just keep it at 10. Keep it halfway, that's good. Well, I had to dial it up to 20 just to be able to brighten those dark scenes enough to be able to see them. Ultimately, I settled on 15, which was a really good mix. It brought out all the shadows and kept it from looking too washed out. And then sadly, the third thing I had to do was turn off HDR. Once I turned off HDR, my picture suddenly popped. Like, it wasn't popping on HDR, which you would expect. It was just too dark. It gives you a nice picture, but it just gets too dark. So I had to turn that off. So I had to turn off the AI darkness thing. I had to put the shadow slider up to 15, and I had to turn HDR completely off. And once I did that, the color of the picture and the picture quality just came straight out. And everything I've watched since, has just been stellar. I turned the hue up to 12 to cut down on the reds. And again, movie mode and then cool temperature just kind of dialed all the reds back and made everything look better. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out were the speakers. I did not expect to get good speaker quality. I had speakers, you know, they were crappy speakers in my both of my Epson projectors, my 3800 and my EF22, but they were crap. And so I had to use a 3.5 millimeter plug to go into a party speaker or my Marshall Bluetooth speaker and use the stereo jack. So I didn't expect much from this projector, but I gotta tell you, it's crazy good. The sound is really, really good. It's actually kind of beyond good. Way better than I expected. The surround component of it really makes you feel, you know, we're just in a living room. It's not a big space. Our house is quite small. But man, it makes you feel almost like the sound is coming straight from the projector. It's just crazy. And it's got really good bass. So when you hear them speaking and you hear the music, it's got this underlying bass tone that just makes everything sound so good. Now, I find the speakers are really good for all the services like, you know, Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and BritBox and stuff like that. I never usually have to go much over 50, 60. Maybe I've gone up to 80 if there's a show that's really quiet. The only thing to maybe keep in mind is if you run a Plex server like I do, you know, your content will be all over the board. You know, I have movies that run really quiet. I have movies that have, you know, really loud volume. You know, they're all over the board. They're up and down. And so like, for instance, my Star Trek movies, you know, the original series 1 to 6, those were really low. So I had to wire in a 3.5 millimeter speaker to be able to pound the sound a little bit out of a Marshall speaker. And you may ask yourself, so how are you running a 3.5 millimeter speaker wire out of this thing because it doesn't have one? Well, that was one of the things I'll point out that was a really big disappointment to me was, you know, when I found this projector initially, you know, it really ticked off every box for me, other than it didn't have the 3.5 millimeter jack. And then I'm thinking, because, you know, I'm talking about portability. You know, I don't mind wiring in a small speaker. You know, I've wired in my party speaker, my big Samsung party speaker before. But if you want to move it around, you don't want to have to be lugging around a speaker with it. And, you know, which is why I'm glad that the speaker sound is actually really good. But when you do, you need to use a speaker for some of those movies like Star Trek. You go, yo, how am I going to do this? I don't have a 3.5 millimeter jack. And the Bluetooth just fucking, sorry, my language, just sucks. It sucks. And there's always that delay. And yes, there's a setting in the projector for Bluetooth latency to kind of dial that in a bit, but it is terrible. You're better off with a 3.5 millimeter jack or a soundbar through the HDMI. It is an EARC, so you can do that. But I'm not going to lug a big soundbar around. So I bought an adapter that plugs into the HDMI and powers up through the USB-C jack on the projector. So in case you're wondering, yes, it does power up an accessory. This one for sure, because it doesn't use a lot of power. I don't know if it would power up a Fire TV stick. It probably would. But, you know, I plugged the adapter, the sound adapter, the splitter, into the HDMI with the EARC, and then plug the power into the USB on the back of it. And then it splits it to a 3.5 millimeter jack, which I then plug into my Marshall speaker. And it worked beautifully, like perfectly, no problems at all. So if anybody's wondering if they can do it or how to do it, that's how to do it. So, you know, for the lower sound movies, lower volume movies, I use that and wire it to my speaker. It's not a big deal because it's just a portable speaker, but it gets louder than the projector. Be honest, To be honest, the sound quality is pretty much on par, but the way that projector pushes the sound around the room is better than just having it wired into a Bluetooth speaker, I can tell you that. But, it does just fine. My Marshall has good sound, so that's fine. Built-in Google TV is really, really good. I've had built-in Google TVs before, and they were crap. Mostly because they don't give you enough RAM, they don't give you enough storage, and so the performance was horrible. And this projector gives you 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gig of storage, and Google TV, from the moment you fire it up, it just moves. The performance is blazing fast. I haven't had one problem with any of my stations after I set it up and updated it. Everything has been working flawlessly, just like on my NVIDIA Shield TV desktops. I have those all around the house as well. And with my Epson EF22 projector and my TCL TV that both have Google TV, it's just complete garbage. And I had to put in streaming sticks or streaming devices like the NVIDIA. So that's one thing I wanted to just mention that I forgot. The second thing I forgot to mention was, many of you might want to know, like I did, whether or not there's any rainbow effect with this projector. I was very worried about that, and I hadn't actually thought of that until after I bought the projector, because I've been using Epson projectors so long, and they have the 3 LCD technology, which ensures that there's no rainbow effect. So once I bought it and it shipped, I'm like, I completely, realized that this is a DLP projector. And so I started messaging on all the YouTube videos from the influencers and on Reddit and everything, have you guys seen any rainbow effect? And, it's come back different ways. Some people have said, no, not at all. Oh my God, no. Other people said, oh yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 5. Other people said, no, it's there, but it's minimum, blah, blah, blah. So I guess for one thing, you have to be very susceptible to it. I am somewhat susceptible to it because I've seen it before on other projectors, like with friends. You kind of move your eyes quickly or follow an image, you might see it. Now, I know that this one in the marketing material says that, it's a 3 laser system, and there's no, color wheel and that type of thing. So much faster. Now, so when I wired this thing up and I'm, watching my first movies, I'm trying to figure out, oh my God, is there going to be any rainbow effect? And what I saw was this. If you are playing this projector at its brightest level, you will see some rainbow coloring around bright white credits or subtitles. Just a little. It's not much. You will see a little bit of it. Now, during actual movies or TV, I didn't see it at all. Like, not even an issue. And now I've played movies and TV nonstop over 2 weeks, and it's been a complete non-issue. And the only time I see any type of, convergence or lack thereof is on bright white credits. And even then, it's not bad. And it's not a deal breaker. It's just so slightly noticeable. The setup was crazy good on this. It worked just as advertised. The AI function found the screen, adjusted to the screen, optimized to the screen, focused perfectly to the screen, which shocked me because my LG projector, the autofocus was garbage. I always had to manually focus, so I was shocked when this actually worked. And the sound quality has just been stellar. So for what I paid, $33.99, it was on sale for I don't know. Originally, when I looked at the listing and bought it, it said it was on sale, with a $1,600 markup or sale price, $1,600 off. And I thought, man, there's no way. If that was normal price, I would never pay $5,000 for this projector. $3,000 would be my absolute limit. So I went over it, but I went over it for the features, the convenience, and the picture. And to be honest, I was thinking, if I try this and any of it lets me down, I'm just going to send it back. But I'm happy to say that after spending $3,800 with tax in, which was, again, way more than I wanted to, and having used it for 2 weeks, there is no way in hell I would ever send this projector back. That's how much I love it. Like, Charlton Heston said, you can't pry this projector out of my cold, dead hands, man. Something like that anyway. But, yeah, there's no way. I've had the projector out for 2 weeks, using it every single day, for TV and for movies. And it's just been stellar. Absolutely stellar. It remembers exactly where the positioning and the screen is and everything. When I turn it on, everything just works. Some projectors I've had to redo them when I turn them back on. Somehow they just dial out their settings a bit. This one keeps everything. It's just brilliant. So if you have the money, you're looking for a lifestyle projector, and you want something with all of these functions and specifications, you can't go wrong. You really can't. It's just brilliant. So I'll leave you on that note. I apologize. This is not a normal YouTube video where I would be showing you all the features, but what's the point? You've seen that. All the influencers are out there. I'm just doing a healthy walking rant while I have time, because during the course of a day, I never have time to do much of anything. But when I'm out walking and doing my 2-hour hike, then it's a different story. Then everything is good and I have time. So that's why I'm doing this rant. I figure if my walking rant can help any of you decide, because you're listening to an actual consumer instead of a YouTube influencer, I'm here to tell you, in this one particular case, these guys are right, and you're getting a good projector for your money. If this is what you're looking for, you're getting the whole package. You're getting the functionality of an effortless setup. You're getting a beautiful picture. And if you choose to use the speaker sound in a small room, you definitely won't be disappointed. And just on a closing note, I will just parallel this with the YouTube influencers when I bought my PSVR 2 VR headset. Those guys were spewing on and on and on about how awesome that headset was. And, crystal clear picture, 4K in every eye. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. The headset gets to consumers. Consumers try it on and go, what the hell? There is so much mirror. This is not a crystal clear 4K image. And they just went ballistic toward the influencers. And, they left the groups, they chastised them in the comments and said, what are you guys thinking, Like, you guys were clearly paid off. And it's kind of similar to this. These guys doing the JMGOs, the N3 Ultimate reviews, they all received a projector for free. And so, of course, they're going to give it big kudos. And, because they don't want to ruin their relationship and they want to continue to get freebies. But in this case, they were actually right. And I'm glad I listened to them and I gave it a try, because the night before I hooked it up, and also when I actually paid for the projector, I was suffering a serious amount of anxiety over whether I'd wasted my money. And I really didn't want to have to go through the hassle of shipping it all the way back across the country, because that would have been at my cost based upon their return policy. And they have a 15% restocking fee. So I'd have basically been handing them, $500 or $600. So that's it. In closing, glad it didn't work out that way. The money was well worth what I spent. The projector was just, it's well worth that money, and I would never return it. So again, I'm just coming out of my hike now, out to the trailhead. as you can see. Nice little pond and everything. BC is beautiful country. And again, I'll just say from BC, in Canada, have a great day, and thanks for listening to this rant. I know it's not what you would normally see on YouTube, but it's the best I can do, and it gives you guys some information that might help you if you're looking to buy this projector. So have a terrific day, everybody. Bye-bye.